Okay, so Tom, why we are here? Why you decide to come to Kyoto and the Research Institute for Humanity and Nature?
So you start with a very existential question right from the very start. Why are we here? And we're at a
Yes.
we're at a Zen temple.
Yep.
So that's a good question to start with, I guess.
Yep.
And I don't know if I'll get into all the different layers of why we are here,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you why I came to the Research Institute for Nature or for Humanity and Nature.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really curious. I was interested to hear how the research is done, what the research is, to interact with you, and to experience kind of Japan and Japanese culture and be in Kyoto and be surrounded by the richness of culture and place and nature here in Kyoto. So it's been a real pleasure. So I mostly wanted to also thank you for welcoming me.
Right. Great. Yeah. And we are now sitting the front of garden, but part of the house we call it Engawa. Yeah. So that's the outdoor corridor, and very close to nature. And also we are living in a house. Of course, that's a very close relationship. But this part is sometimes part of the inside of the house, but part of the garden. So we have this kind of the very not sharp boundary, but very broad boundary. Like this. Have you find in Japan too?
It's been really interesting to try to think about how we can have boundaries that are not quite so fixed. I think that's also maybe a good lesson for groundwater, groundwater science and groundwater sustainability. We often think in very fixed ways, right? We try to put boundaries around systems and decide, what's in, what's out, physical boundaries, computational boundaries, boundaries between disciplines. And I feel like that lesson of blurring the boundary between inside and outside, looking at different ways of blurring boundaries between humanity and nature and where these connect. And between different disciplines, as groundwater people, we can get sometimes stuck in our ways and only want to talk about groundwater when there's so much more to this beautiful world. And I've been very interested to learn about these different ways of blurring boundaries.
Yeah. So in Japan we have a different type of the broad boundary. One of them is Satoyama. You may have heard of the Satoyama concept, right? The Satoyama is a broad boundary between city and the forest transition. So we don't make a very sharp boundary between city and the nature. We have a transition part as a Satoyama. And also another one is a Satoumi. That is the broad boundary between the ocean and the forest transition. So in Japan, that mountain and the ocean is very close. So the connection, interaction between forest and ocean is very important. And we have the world, the fisher live with nutrient from the mountain. So that kind of relationship we have.
So both the connection and the boundary,
they're
both important.
That's true.
And I think another thing that we've been talking about and I've been learning, and another reason why we're sitting right here is to think slightly differently maybe about some of those connections. In the West, we often think of nature as something really just on the outside. And it's either to be controlled, as an engineer, we control water, we control many things, or protected. We kind of isolate it and don't live with it and kind of put it off to be protected in a nature preserve. And both of those things certainly exist in Japan as well. But there does seem to be another way of thinking as well. More about living with nature. That you've been telling me and other people have been talking to me about. Can you describe a little bit more of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And for example, about groundwater. Groundwater is very, clean and very tasty, and that is a good part of the nature. But once we, destroy that, value of the groundwater, it takes a long time to recover. So we knew that the importance of the, the groundwater as a nature, but also we know we want to use as resources. So that kind of, the connection is, related to the interaction between humanity and nature. And people for a long time that keep the borehole and the spring to clean up the area and to make a community, the conversation. And that means to get another information with a different, activity. So this is a groundwater borehole or spring is a core of the community. That's the way to make an interaction between nature and humanity.
Can you also, you've told me a few ideas such as Fudo. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like what is Fudo and how might it come back to or have some lesson for groundwater, groundwater science or groundwater sustainability?
So Fudo is that's a concept of the relationship between humanity and nature. And Fudo exactly means Fu is wind and Do is soil. But not only physical soil or wind, but also interaction between nature and humanity. So it's make a culture. So that is a long-term the concept in Japan. And that's make another concept like mottainai. That is a Japanese word. The mottainai. Do you know that?
No, I've heard of it, but what does it mean?
So mottainai means we shouldn't discard or thrown away of the very valued things without using or without making the using that value. For example, we keep a lot of stuff in our house, right? In my house, a lot of stuff there, but sometimes we don't use at all. But if you ask other people to use, it's become more valuable, right? So that kind of things we call mottainai. Why we don't use that one more effectively or more valuable way? So that is, also we can tell to nature too. We should, make more, interaction to make to reduce mottainai.
Wow. So those are some really interesting. They're both words and concepts and ideas that are important for that Japanese culture kind of could bring and share with groundwater science and groundwater sustainability. And I just appreciate you sharing those with me, and I hope others can benefit from that and see some of this beauty that we're sitting here and enjoying.
Okay.
So thank you, Makoto.
Thank you, Tom.